To start off in this location, you have your expansion tank and pressure cap. The expansion tank system is needed because as coolant heats up, it expands. So there needs to be a location where the expanded coolant can go to. So that's why you've got your expansion line here. Because the pressure cap via the expansion tank is the only official way to top up the engine's coolant system, you've got a supply line down here that takes coolant to the engine. This component here attaches the bottom of the prop stick to the vehicle. Down in this location, you have one of your transaxle mounts. Inside this mount, you can see rubber that reduces vibrations going into the cabin. On the bracket, you've got hybrid electric vehicle. This tells you that this bracket is only intended for this engine. Moving over here, you have one of your fasteners that attaches the tank to the vehicle. Moving forward from the tank, you've got your washer fluid cap and neck. If you were to follow the neck down, it would take you to your washer fluid tank. This is the tank itself. On the back of each headlight, this one for example, you have one of your service covers that you can remove to gain access to the headlight. You also have an electrical connector here that is used to control and power that headlight. Moving the camera over here, you have your hybrid starter generator. Instead of having an alternator, you use this instead. This component is not only used to start up the engine, but it's also used to recharge the high voltage battery. Because the HSG is used to start up the engine, a special kind of belt tensioner system is required. Below the hybrid starter generator, you have your pulley for your water pump. This pump is used to circulate coolant around the engine's cooling system. Without it, you would have a major problem because the engine would overheat. Underneath the water pump, you have your air conditioning compressor. Instead of using a mechanically driven air conditioning compressor, you use a high voltage air conditioning compressor. The advantages of this are you don't have to have the engine running to have air conditioning. So the air conditioning compressor is not driven off the auxiliary belt. You also have your crankshaft pulley and other pulleys. Moving up to this location, you can see your control valve that is used for your inlet camshaft variable valve timing system. Moving over to this location, you have your fireperson's loop. This loop is used to disable the high voltage system. If you needed to extract someone out of the vehicle, you would need to disable the high voltage system. So that's why you have a fireperson's loop. You have this component here that's part of your braking system. In a plug-in hybrid vehicle, it uses a special kind of braking system. On this unit, you've got 4 of your pipes that goes to each of your wheel cylinders, and control unit that controls that unit. Moving the camera to this location, you can see on your firewall you have a component that reduces noise from the engine compartment going into the cabin. Below the sound deadening, you have your heat shield. Because your exhaust pipe runs to the rear of the car in this location, that's why you need your heat shield to protect components from heat damage. You can also see in this area both of your pipes, low and high pressure pipes, that goes to and from your evaporator via the expansion valve. You also have a cover that covers your low pressure recharge point. This one and another one in another location allow service personnel to recharge the air conditioning system. You also have heat shielding covering your exhaust manifold. You have a flex pipe on the exhaust pipe that allows the exhaust pipe to flex. Moving the camera to this location, you have your 2 coolant pipes that takes coolant to and from your heater matrix. The heater matrix is basically a mini radiator that's located behind the dash. When you pass air through it, the air heats up, heating up the cabin. To the right of the two pipes, you have your wiring harness that contains high voltage lines. To comply with Society of Automotive Engineering standards, any high voltage lines must be orange. In this location, you have your brake fluid cap and tank. The reason why braking systems have brake fluid reservoir tanks are it not only stores excess brake fluid, but it also prevents air from going into the system via the top of the system. Moving the camera to this location, you can see your steering rack. The steering rack is used to convert rotational movement from the steering shaft into left and right movement of the steering rack. The steering rack then moves your tie rods that moves your wheel hubs, left and right. Above your left-hand steering rack boot, you can see your anti-roll bar. This bar is used to connect the two McPherson struts together. When you turn into a left-hand corner, the right side goes down and the left side goes up. To reduce this, the anti-roll bar will push up the side that's down and pull down the side that's up. Above the anti-roll bar, you've got your near side front brake line. Located on top of the transmission, you have your gear actuator assembly. Just above the gear actuator assembly, you have two electrical connectors for two ECUs. One is your transmission control unit, and the other one is your engine ECU. Moving the camera to this location, you have one of your power distribution box lids. To remove the lid, you push in these locations. Underneath the lid, you've got relays, fuses, electrical connector, fusible links, and positive jump start post. Because the 12-volt battery is in the back, you have this instead as your jump start terminal. On the back of the box, you've got information about what each fuse or relay does. To put the box back on, it's easy. Make sure that it clips in like that. Moving the camera to this location, you have your hybrid power control unit. The hybrid power control unit is used for multiple things. It's not only used as an inverter, but it's also used as your DC to DC converter and junction block. Behind the hybrid power control unit, you've got a series of high voltage wiring harnesses and cables. Two of them are for your hybrid power control unit. On the back of the engine, you've got coolant pipes, you'd have your thermostat housing, and out of shot, you have your pipe for your EGR system. Moving the camera to this location, you have your air filter box. The forward section of this box, underneath where it says plug-in hybrid, is where your air filter element is. Moving the camera over here, you have your mass airflow sensor. This sensor is used to tell the engine control unit how much air is going into the engine. If you follow this pipe down here, it will take you to your electronic throttle body. The throttle body is used to regulate how much air is going into the intake manifold. Moving the camera back to this location, you have your reservoir tank for your hybrid power control unit. Inside the left wiring harness, you've got high voltage lines like for your air conditioning compressor and hybrid starter generator. In this wiring harness, you've got 3 high voltage lines for your electric motor. Located in front of the power distribution box, you've got a wiring harness here that contains multiple wires and wiring harnesses. This orange wiring harness is used to take the energy from the charge port to your onboard charger. Down in this location, you can see your other chassis rail and you have your onboard charger. The onboard charger is important because it's used to convert alternating current into direct current and to step up the voltage to higher than battery voltage. You also have in this location your cap and reservoir tank for your engine clutch actuator circuit, one of your airbag crash sensors, and other components. Just in front of the hybrid's power control unit, you've got your emergency cable that you can pull up to disengage the lock that holds in the charger connector. Just in front of your air intake pipe, you've got your radiator module. This module consists of your engine radiator. The radiator is used to cool the engine when the thermostat is opened. Located back in this location, you can see quite a few different components here. You can see coolant pipes for your hybrid starter generator, air conditioning pipes, and other components. On top of the right-hand headlight, you've got information about the headlight. For example, you've got serial numbers, E-mark, and other information. Moving to the center here on the slam panel, you've got a cutout here for your bonnet latch system. On the bottom rear of the engine compartment, you can see your EGR cooler. Moving the camera over here, you can see your subframe, one of your anti-roll bar bushes, one of your steering rack boots, and other components. Moving the camera into this location, you can see your other steering rack boot, one of your drive shafts, your differential housing, your transmission housing, heat shielding, high voltage wiring harness, and other components. Thank you very much for watching my video, and goodbye.